Welcome back to another episode of NFL News on the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry, and today, not really talking about news per se, but I wanted to talk about quarterbacks, man. This is something that's been on my mind, and I've talked about this stuff before in the past, but what really kicked it off, which I guess is news, is that the Atlanta Falcons are starting Desmond Ridder in place of Mariota. And so this really just reignited this conversation in my mind because I think the discussion about quarterbacks is absolutely insane. And I've talked about the owners and the fans and social media many times before. And I forgot, I don't even remember what year it was, but you could literally see the switch happen where the owners started to act like the fans, which I think the fans have always been impatient. But I do think in the social media era, it got worse. And you literally saw the switch because Black Monday was guaranteed. It was always guaranteed for coaches. And then we started to see the NFL do NBA type things. And it started with the coaches, and then it creeped into the quarterbacks. Which is kind of weird because all these other positions, they get a very long leash. Now, obviously not if you a top 10 pick and you've been 6 years and you're not good. Obviously not. You're not going to make it to the option. But they still get leashes, and then they get to bounce around the league. These quarterbacks, though, have no leash. And so it blows my mind that every year, everybody, whether you're talking about fantasy football, betting, whether you're talking about the sports media, you're talking about just individual fans, everybody is talking about the quarterback. And they're complaining about not having a quarterback if they don't have one, and talking about how the quarterback is everything. But yet somehow the NFL continues to be the reason that quarterbacks do not become as good as they can. And it's like, I don't understand if they don't see it or if they don't care. Now, unfortunately, it comes down to the owners. There's not a thought in my mind that all the coaches I know on every level of football that I continue to talk to, there's no doubt in my mind that they understand the development of a player. It's the owners that will not give them the time. And I'm trying to think. I've talked to some former GMs, none that were currently working. But I don't know them, so I don't know if they understand, but I know the coaches understand. And it's just the owners. They're operating in a world where the owners will just not let it go. Most of them. And so the trickle-down effect is that these quarterbacks are getting trashed. So Desmond Ridder, this is what blows my mind. Desmond Ridder is a rookie. He's literally in his rookie year. And excuse me, I can't remember when he was drafted. Third round. He's a third round pick. And he has not started this year. And so fans have been clamoring for him to start. Fine, that's fine. I mean, the Falcons were competitive, especially on offense in most of the season, and they've won more games than people expected. But still, the fans wanted Ridder because they always want the new thing. Okay, I get that. But then we got to a point where, because you're in the AFC South, the AFC South is one of those divisions that is probably going to be won with a bad record. So even though they only won 5 games, they're in line to still compete with the Bucks for the division. And so in the midst of this, you have people who said, okay, you need to see Ridder play in these, last 4 games? I think they have 4 or 5. You want to see Ridder play so you can know if you need to get a quarterback or not. And that just blew my mind because the Falcons are in a unique spot. Because if they don't win the division, they could very well have a pretty decent draft pick. And so I do understand that you might potentially have a shot at these quarterbacks. Probably not C.J. Stroud, but Bryce Young, the guy from Kentucky. I think there's a guy from Florida, maybe another QB. And so you'll have a shot at one of these quarterbacks. So I get that. But you are essentially saying not take a rookie, throw him in, and see if they are our guy. Like with Kenny Pickett, who didn't even start the year, but essentially that's what they're doing. And even though I think that's insane, they still have a bigger sample size than Ritter, who's going to have a handful of games. So you're literally telling me you're going to make a decision on the future of your quarterback based off a rookie playing 4 games? I don't understand. Like, how did we fall this far? I think you hear pretty often other people talk about how quarterbacks used to sit behind people. And yes, that's true, but it's not even like just random, okay, let them sit there. They had years to develop. It wasn't like 5 games, half a season, not even a year. They had years to develop. I think in a lot of cases, you'll see most quarterbacks had 2 years at least to sit. Now, it all plays hand in hand because not only were they more secure, the coach was more secure. So you imagine you have a rookie, 2 years. You see him practice. You see him in the film room. You see him in the quarterback room. You see how he interacts with his teammates in the locker room. You really know who that person is. And they had the same playbook that they got to sit with year after year and really develop. And no matter, what your situation is, whether you compete in or you're a bad team, whatever, you really know who this player is. And then they get this chance after they have a house, after they know the travel schedule, after they know how to prepare. A couple years of learning the profession, then they go out and play. And so you got all types of examples. We know about Aaron Rodgers having to sit behind Brett Favre. We know about a number of different people. Like I sit here and I think Rich Gannon won the MVP in his 15th season. That man was a third stringer a couple times in the first few years. And he ended up getting to that level. Kurt Warner, we know, came into the league later in his career or just in his age and was able to turn it around. Obviously, you see what Geno Smith is doing this year. We saw what Alex Smith did after years of not being the guy and reemerging. We see what Kirk Cousins, when honestly Kirk has been kind of consistent, but we see Kirk Cousins being into his own. And I'm not saying that everybody's going to have a good QB. Obviously, you're still going to have bad QBs. And I'm not saying everybody's going to be great. Like most of those people I just named, for the most part, are solid. And people are, I think, in, for lack of a better term, in this boom or bust mentality, where it's like we got to have an elite quarterback or they're not good enough. We're just going to keep turning them out. And it makes no sense when football has never changed. I don't care what anybody says. You're still going to have a couple different philosophies and different ways you can win a game and build a team. It doesn't have to be the Kansas City Chiefs. It doesn't have to be the Bengals. And so I don't understand it for me, because we're turning out more quarterbacks. When you play them early and you label them a bust in their first year, now I always say NFL prospects coming into the draft need 3 full seasons before you know who they are. And even then, that doesn't mean they can't grow after that. And so we look at players of the past, and we see the development and the time it takes for these quarterbacks and what they can eventually become. But again, coaches, quarterbacks had that time. Now, if you're throwing them in there, you're labeling them after a year, after 2 years, and you're moving on, then obviously you're just going to have, you're going to have a lot more quarterbacks that never gain the confidence to get better. But then B, when you're bringing in so many quarterbacks, there's more that are leaving the game. And so a Geno Smith is probably going to be less likely going forward. You know, those players that take some time to develop is probably going to be less likely. And this idea, again, to jump like from what we used to have to throwing people in their rookie year is crazy. But to sit here, we're at a point where a team says we're going to give you 4 games and we're going to decide our draft plan off that. And this ain't just fans. Like, this ain't just a rogue owner. I've seen analysts, like real analysts. I've seen journalists, beat writers. I've seen people all advocate for this. And everybody is complicit in just accepting it as the way it is. And it's so weird to me in life how people continue to talk about this is the way it is, like they're not actively contributing to that. It's this way because you're allowing it to be this way, or we are as a collective. And so for smart people to talk as if this is the right move, not to say that you shouldn't play him, but look, if you got a quarterback, I think in the first or second round, then it's probably going to be hard to touch him. Now, you know my draft, if you watch my draft content, in general, I don't like the whole draft position, draft status as like a way to make decisions. But sometimes it is helpful, and quarterback is one of those times. You have a first or second round quarterback. The next draft, you should not be going after a quarterback. You honestly shouldn't. And so even if you have a chance at a CJ Stroud or whatever, but Desmond Ridder as a third round quarterback, you haven't seen him play. If he started for you, if he's like a Russ Wilson or somebody, he starts for you and he's winning, then obviously, okay, you can continue to roll with that. But other than that, if you don't have that caliber of quarterback, then yes, you go for it. What is 4 games going to show you to make a decision? Now, I'm not saying get rid of him. The man could be a backup. If you're in a position to get a CJ Stroud or one of these guys, then Ridder can back him up. Like, that's okay. I just don't know what he's going to show you in 4 rounds as a third-round pick quarterback, or 4 rounds in 4 games as a third-round pick quarterback to make you change your mind. Like, again, you're in a playoff hunt, and you've seen him all year. In practice, if you know he ain't on the level of Mariota, then what makes you think he's going to just become something different for these last few games? And so in the thought that you could make that decision off these few games is just crazy to me. Like, I don't think people understand, like, this ain't a cornerback where it's all physical and like you run a 4-3, you run a 4-3. That don't mean you're going to be good, but it's going to be a big part of it. It ain't like, yes, there's physical parts to the QB position, but it is so much more on the mental side that these quarterbacks have to know and learn, and how much they got to pick up. And people expecting everything to happen just, it's crazy to me. Like, to me, honestly, I never thought coming out Baker was as good as some people would have said. I don't think he should have been number 1 pick, but Baker to me can absolutely a few years down the line become a really good veteran quarterback that you can win with. Not win because of, but win with. And obviously he got a shot with the Rams and pulled off a crazy drive. But before that, you talking about people talking about his career is over. A number one overall pick. What has he been playing, like 5 years or something like that? And his career is over? I don't know, man. It blows my mind. Like, I don't think people really understand what goes into the quarterback position. And I shouldn't say, I'm thinking more owners and fans, but as coaches, I especially veterans, I believe they know what it takes and sometimes how long it takes. And really, that's any player, but these other players, weirdly enough, get the longest leashes. The important player, everybody talks about quarterback being important. The most important position gets like the shortest leash. But all these other players, they got long leashes, man. They be bouncing around the league for years, have 15-year career, finally get solid like in year 8 and just continue to make their contracts, especially linemen, but just all types of positions, but not quarterbacks, and they have to know the most information. It's like, why wouldn't you think it would take some years for them to get right? And then the other weird part is people are acting like everybody, all these young quarterbacks are going crazy. I just don't get why the feeling is put them in now like everybody's doing well. They're not. Pat Mahomes is doing well, and he's still got a step or two to take, but he's having an unprecedented career. And then you got Justin Herbert, who still has some steps to take. You got Tua, who took a big step this year. We still got to see him improve. We got Jalen Hurts, took a big step this year, definitely still got more steps to take as a quarterback. Lamar Jackson, we know he's got to take steps as quarterback. Josh Allen was one of the kind of last ones that had to go. I mean, he started, but he took some time and some years before he got to where he is. And I think he's pretty much, I wouldn't say maxed out, but he is where he's going to be. But still, like, okay, yeah, we got those hot names, but you still look at the vast majority, these quarterbacks didn't work out. And so I don't know why throwing the quarterback in right away, giving them 2 years is the move everybody thinks that makes sense when it hasn't panned out for a lot of people. Again, it's this boomer bust mentality where we're going to have an elite guy or we're going to get rid of him. And it's just, it makes no sense to me. So they talk about quarterback being the scarcest position. They talk about all these different things. And the NFL is the reason that it's that way. They're the reason. Because, and more so the owners. Because not only are you not giving these kids time to develop, but then we see some teams completely, carve out their playbook just to make it as simple to bring these quarterbacks in so they can do simple things that they're used to and make them effective right now. Even though it doesn't contribute to long-term winning, even though it doesn't contribute to competing, we just want to make them effective right now. And it's just like these kiddie gloves. Like I said, you had quarterbacks who, like top picks, who were riding the bench for years. And, you gotta get humble and you gotta kill that ego and understand, like, okay, you're gonna have to earn your time. And now it's just like, oh no, we gotta do everything, make this quarterback feel like they're okay, make this fan base feel like they're okay and they're something. And they don't ever really develop. So, again, I think the NFL is its own worst enemy in this whole quarterback discussion. And this idea that the Falcons are in the middle of a playoff race, going to put in a rookie third-round quarterback for 4 or 5 games to quote-unquote see what they need to do about their quarterback situation is crazy to me. I don't care how good he looks in 5 games. I don't care how bad he looks in 5 games. That is absolutely impossible That's an impossible method to effectively evaluate a quarterback. And so, and like I said, this conversation has been on my mind for a while. I just really think the average person does not appreciate what goes into being a great quarterback. Yes, there's some physical things you'll never change, but there's a lot of mental things that one of the new favorite phrases now is the time on task thing. You gotta have the reps, and that only comes with time. And everybody wants a quarterback to grow up in 1 year and do 5 years worth of work in 1 year, and it's just not going to happen. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.